Hey, I'm late. But guess what? I wasn't late. I was right on time. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I was working and talking away, and apparently I have to push the go live button on a scheduled stream. So, yeah, if you're going to create a new stream on YouTube, if you just say go live and you start your OBS, it starts. But if, however, you schedule it and then come back to start the scheduled one and you hit OBS and start, uh, it doesn't, it goes into a preview mode. And apparently I've been jabbering to myself for an hour, and it's all been in preview mode. And, since I'm so used to not having anybody chatting to me, I just figured, nobody's here because, hey, nobody's ever here. So I decided to, I was getting ready. I was even thinking, how long have I been going? And I took a look and, hey, I've been going for 35 minutes. Oh no, I haven't been going for 35 minutes because it's not been going at all. So here I am, ready to do this again. But hey, on the upside, the couple only things I've done so far is talk a little bit about how to use formulas, what they're good for, and kind of a little bit of a rehashing of yesterday, because it's ultimately what this is, right? Because we're doing the same thing for a couple of days. We'll be doing this maybe again this afternoon. So what is going on is I'm just creating the formulas for a game. I implemented a couple of functions that I have created in the past for a previous game that I did. This one's called Round Better. All this does versus any other round is it actually will round to whole numbers, not, I mean, whole numbers at decimal different places. So like I can round it to the tens or to the 100s or to the 1000s by moving the decimal place to the left. Um, Not talking to the thousandth or the 100th, but to thousands and 100s, so I can round off those numbers. What -1 here, as you can see in this value, is showing us is this is pulling it back to the tens basically. We're not just rounding the first one. So our last digit will always be 0, allowing us to be at the right grouping. We still have the issue though of once we get down to a certain level or a certain difficulty and level combination, we're getting down to the point where our HP is too small. We need our HP to probably never be less than 30, even for your lowest level Pokemon. Um, just because, I mean, I guess in theory it could be lower. I don't know how low level 1 Pokemon can actually be in, say, the games. I don't have my resources here. my my sons aren't here. I have my two sons who play Pokemon quite a bit on the video game are not here. How they are the ones that would best know um, how low is HP at the very beginning of the game for like a level 1 Pokemon that you might capture. I don't know how many there are even in the game. You may only capture level 5s. I don't know where they start at, but what is the lowest video game? What is? Let me see if Google knows. Let's see. What is the lowest HP of a let's see, Pokemon? Lowest HP Pokemon. Let's see. Lowest HP Pokemon. Let's see. Is there a way to do this? Pokemon Gold. Let's see how they do this. Lowest base HP stat of all rock type Pokemon. Let's see here. Catch rate 190. I'm trying to see. I don't see it saying. I want to see like when you're playing the games, what is their lowest HP? And I don't see an easy way to tell that. Level, location, lowest HP level 1 Pokemon. Is it Pokemon Gold? What is the current one? Shield? Pokemon Shield and Sword? Pokemon Sword. What is the lowest a stat can be at level 1? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. And any stat below 50 with a decreased nature will be 4 if level 1. There are far too many to list. I just forgot. The lowest stat for speed is 2 if they are holding an iron ball or any EV increased items. Any Pokemon with a base stat lower than 50 and has a receding nature will have the lowest base stat of 4 at level 1, except Shedinja, which will have 1 HP. Oh. So interestingly enough, it looks like you can actually have an HP of 1. So what would that be? 10 for our purposes? We're going to base it off of a 10. That's very interesting. Let's see. But as a Pokemon trainer, 67 pointed out more concisely than I ever could, any base stat below 50 will reach these results at level 1. Interesting. Technically, any Pokemon that is level 1 with a base stat below 50 and a hindering nature will have a base stat of 4 at level 1. Otherwise, it will be 5. Try it on the battle calc. I noticed that I was just pointing out that the ones... So I don't even know what... This is 2017, so I don't know what the rule is, but it looks like you can actually have pretty low level Pokemon. Very, very light HPs, even in the video games. That said, is a 1 a 10? Or is it actually a 1 in the video games? Because I don't know, maybe in the video games you can actually have crazy low, because the way Pokemon TCG works is everything's based on 10s. You only ever do 10 damage. It's 0 or 10. There is no 1 damage. So ultimately, any damage you do is only going to go up to X. So in a video game, I don't know, it's a 35 HP Pokemon might be huge. Maybe not. Maybe they do just go up to crazy numbers and you're going from 1 to 350. I don't know. You do a lot of damage. Maybe that's just their way of blowing it up for the video game. And you can, because the TCGs, maybe cards are never level 10. Maybe they go up by 10s. Maybe they're only ever 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So there's only 10 ranges of Pokemon. I don't know. I don't know how they create their logic. But we've got to create a logic for our game. And if we want it to work in the same vein as TCG, we got to go by 10s. So that means for us, a 1 is a 10, right? So a 1 is a 10 and a 35 is 350. So our range is 1 to 35. Doesn't matter what we do beyond that, we have to have a range of 1 to 35. And the only way you can get 35 is if you have a stamina that goes all the way to 15. So, well, actually it's 1 to 400. So if your stamina is 15, your difficulty is 10, and your level is 10, you're at 400. So that's like the perfect Pokemon. Can't be any better. So we'll say 100 and 10. So we're at 400 there. As we change this number should start dropping. It could potentially be the same. I mean, I think if you go 99, it probably won't change. Oh no, it dropped. What if we go to 9 here? 9 actually drops it by a lot more. So your difficulty modifier is going to have a bigger effect on your Pokemon. So there's that. So having a difficulty of 10 Pokemon is going to have a big difference on what you're capable of reaching. Probably not going to be a lot of difficulty 10s that have stamina as their max, but if there is a couple, I don't know if we'll even have those in our current game, because right now our thought is that the biggest Pokemon are 340, so that means our max likely modifier is going to have to be 8, or we will have too big a Pokemon. And we'll have to, once we set up our scaling, that means everything falls within maximum to minimum. So if we were to say we need our 1 and level 1 to actually have a number of at least 10, we need to say, okay, that's our base. So the lowest value we can have is 10, and we need to have everything fall into a max of 100. So the question is, what is this value minus our rounding? So if we go and set this, so this is the lowest of low, and we would set that at, let's set this at 2. So it's 0.47. So 0.47, if we know that a Pokemon is level 1 with a, actually, that's not even true. What we actually want is like for this stamina to be a 1. Because everybody's going to have at least a 1. So the lowest of low would be a 1 stamina. Oops, did I kill a formula? I think I killed a formula. I think that number is supposed to be... No, I guess... I don't think I killed the formula. No, I haven't set the formula on those yet. So the formula on those is going to be based on the modifier of stamina, plus, of course, also the difficulty modifier and the level. How much of this stamina are you going to have when the Pokemon comes into existence? It's a base stat value. So assuming you were to catch a 100 and a 10, his stamina would be 15 and it'd be straight up across the board. But again, we're going to have to scale that back to be a number that fits the current state. So what's going to happen is, if we have a base stat of 0, actually I think everything should start off with a 1, and maybe you get a bonus of stamina 2. I don't know. I mean, I think everything should have some kind of a base stat. Maybe. But base stat's going to be based on whatever level they are, which is going to be calculated in our thing. So all we have to do is create a set of Pokemon that have, a bunch of different levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then we'll have to mix up our modifiers so that we have a variety of that stuff, and mix up our focus modifiers. So we'll have, as long as we have a variety of all those, then we'll have a variety of Pokemon to work with. Some of them will be the same, some of them won't. That's just how it goes. They'll have different skills, and maybe we adjust the damage in the same way. We put our formula to say no matter what we put in here, we can say. Maybe we have, based on the difficulty modifier, will be what kind of skill they have to start. And this is where you can spend a lot of time fiddling with stuff. But on the upside, if you do it this way, you can say, a skill 1, if you create a skill 1 and a skill 2 and a skill 3, whatever you create, the damage that they get will be based on that. Now you have to come up with even possibly it's even possible to create the math for the symbols that it's going to use. Like if it's a 10 and he's a level 1 with the whatever, it's the lowest damage you can do is 10, or maybe he doesn't do any damage, but you have to give it a skill because the skill adds value to it. So what are details? Skill ability. Now skill abilities can't be driven by damage, but you can say, if he's a lowest level possible thing, then he's going to have a skill ability that's, low or whatever. And so it's possible to generate a Pokemon that has a base that says, okay, well, he's a level 30. He's doing a single colorless attack for 10 or for 20 versus a Pokemon who's a level 5 that you captured. He's doing a single colorless attack for 10. It's not as strong, but it's going to have you'll have logic in your formula that says, well, then you can actually drive all these abilities, including this, all this stuff. And really, you make this stuff up. It doesn't matter. There's no math to these. You could even create a table that maybe it says, if you set dive, it's this. If you say, if you could do all kinds of weird stuff. You could set up a formula on another table that says if the word dive is in there, then it's a 10 colorless. But if you say dive blast, it reads both words in there and it says, oh well, that's a double colorless and it costs 20. And you can even adjust that by your scaling. So there's a lot of different ways to have formulas be totally mathematical, making it so all you have to do is go in here and put keywords down in here and everybody gets the same thing. But the problem is, maybe they're only colorless if they're in a certain set. The dives are always colorless. Blast is always, type specific. So it's a dive blast. Multiple Pokemon might be able to have dive blast, but maybe they can't if Splash always has water in it. You can do sand splash, and which means you're going to have water in fist because sand is always fist. Do you need help with something?
Yeah. You online?
I am, but
Oh.
that's all right. I can come give you a hand.
It's carrying the TV.
Oh, yeah. All right, I gotta go grab something. I'll be right back. It should only take a moment. So, let's see. I don't have a standby, so I'm gonna have to step away. It's only gonna be a minute. Any shoes? I'm back. That was quick. Quick and easy, quick and dirty. Alright, so back to task. I'll have to chop that out. Nah, I won't be able to chop it out because that means downloading the video and cutting out that chunk and yeah. Like I said, if I ever make these permanent long-term things, I will edit the videos and reload them. It's not like, I start getting tons of views or anything, so. This is just practicing my streaming, learning to talk to myself, and maybe in time when I actually have stuff that's interesting enough that people are joining me, then we'll do more editing. It's kind of hard to edit these things and still be consistent with them. So I'm streaming every day right now, 1 to 2 hours a day. That means a lot of editing, and yeah, I don't know. Probably don't have time. Because right now I'm actually off and I'm doing 1 to 2 hours a day. And when I'm working full time, I'll be lucky if I'm doing one a day or one every few days. And that's also going to mean I have to do streaming, or I'm going to have to do editing. Sorry. Live streaming is live streaming. You get what you get. And I'm going to try to be as professional as I can and not have too much dead zone speak. But, yeah. It's just the way it is for now. All right, so back to our task. So ultimately, we want to figure out what minimum is. This number should never be lower than 10. So we're going to have to round up to a whole number. And I believe I have part of my cool little side stuff here. Round better, I think, has the ability to round up. Let's see. Number of places, round point. This allows you to control what the values round up at. Oh, that's the round point. Okay. So we have our round better. Round point is our second digit here. So we got our number, and then we have our number of places, which is the second number, and then we have our round point. Round point is going to say, I believe we round up, so we should probably say round point. This is also going to be a number. Let's see, if left blank are set to 0, then 5 is the default. Huh. Alright, so let's set it to 1. Let's see what that does. And we'll put this back up to -1. See if we get, gotta learn my formulas. Oh, that didn't do it. So our round point, let's see. This allows you to control what value is used to round up at. Use -1 to always round up. Well, let's do that then. Aha! There we go. We're up to 10. So, this means the lowest we can get is 10. Doesn't matter how low the number goes. We're going to always be at least 10. So that pretty much means that this guy, I believe, he may not even change for a few difficulty levels. He's going to be a 10 no matter what. I bet I don't even know what level does he become anything more than 10. Not yet. So even a level 1 never actually breaks. Never breaks his, jeez. Level 2? 3? Oh. So, difficulty modifier 10 has to be at least level 3 before we can get to 10. So, right now we have it capped at minimum of 10. So, all of these other guys are going to be a 10. That's a lot of 10. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if we go to a 9 stays at 20. An 8 would drop. So basically all the hardest Pokemon, you're basically everything at level 3 or lower is going to be a 10 HP to start. Yeah, that's pretty low. If we scale, so at level 4 they'll get up to 20. Let's see how far that holds. That can hold for a little while. 6 they drop back down to 10. A level 5. A 6, maybe we're okay. I mean, we're getting a good range. I mean, level 1s are level 1s. I mean, they'll just level faster in the event of higher difficulty modifiers. But that's the idea, right? So the higher up we go, the better chance they're going to level up their HP. And this is just starting, because everything else is driven not by their difficulty modifiers. Starting HP for a lot of these guys is, say, 10, and then they level up. But what we will tell the, what we'll have on the card is when they get HP boosts. So it'll be like every 3 levels, every 5 levels, every 7 levels, every 10 levels. They get HP boosts at a wider range. So you might look at it and go, I don't want, this Pokemon doesn't level up very fast. So you might not be able to level him, or you might not be able to gain HP pretty quick. But if he has a high offense, maybe his damage increases, more frequently, or his defense increases more frequently. So all those things can drive it. Plus, your stamina might increase I mean, your offense, stamina, and defense are randomly increased. But what's going to happen is, um, if he's based on a certain level, that means he's already going to have a set point where he's able to give you a chance at the perfect Pokemon for that level, right? But whether you get perfect or not. So none of our Pokemon will ever. I mean, when you're building one, there's no guarantee you're ever going to get to the perfect Pokemon. 15 stamina, level 10. You definitely won't in this iteration because I'm not going to have any eights or nines and tens. Only 8 is probably going to be the highest we can go for difficulty modifiers because I'm not planning to put any EXs in. So I'm thinking maybe a 7 or an 8 might be a legendary, because they're just straight legendaries. So I don't think a 10 is very likely. We're probably not going to have any 400 HP Pokemon. And at that, I think it's reasonable to expect we may never have even a 300 and... Because ultimately, his stamina increases your Pokemon's deck. So it's like adding HP, right? So if his stamina is high... So ultimately, if we go... if he's a level 100, and we're only going to go up to level 7... That's 280, but then if we take our stamina, does this include our stamina? It does. So if we go up to a max stamina, that's 290. So that's reasonable to expect that 290 is about as big a Pokemon as we're going to have. If we allow legendaries to reach as high as 8, they might get to 320. I mean, that's pretty high. We have the potential to go higher, but if I take it to a 9, we're up to 360, which is bigger than any known Pokemon. So we could tweak and adjust the gaps to allow for our modifier 10 to stop at 350 or 340, but we know how things blow up. And we want to be able to say, okay, well, if you're playing with X Pokemon, then we should be able to adjust accordingly. So maybe in order to use certain types of Pokemon, whenever you go to play it, you look up their stats and it tells you what level they are, and thus the Pokemon you're going up against. I think that's how we'll do it. We'll have to have some sort of converter for existing TCG Pokemon, because they won't say what their level is, but we'll have our formulas here will already know what a valid value is. And so maybe we can say, okay, well, how many skills do you have? What are their values? Are their damage? And then, we can try to calculate what kind of difficulty, what kind of level your Pokemon is. And then when you take your TCG cards and you want to go battle against a trainer, or you want to maybe even play the game with your cards, you set them at their level and you set them what they are, and everything you encounter from there to the end of the game is going to be in relation to your Pokemon's current level. You'll already have it set, so you'll just write them down in the Pokédex, you'll look them up, these are what their levels are, and then everything you encounter is going to adjust according to the level you're fighting at. And then you'll be able to say, okay, well, I played with my TCG deck and I got my butt kicked. Or not. Maybe the game can't keep up with your super duper VMAX Pokemon because we weren't ready. The game wasn't ready for it. Wasn't designed to have VMAX Pokemon. I don't know. Depends on how well we come up with a way to balance using TCGs. Okay, so I know I've been jumping around. Ultimately, I've been trying to figure out a way to figure out if we've got a good set of starting numbers. And we are not going down. We're trying to build this to use cards based on the 10 factor that Pokemon USA uses for their TCG. It's just familiar. Everybody who knows Pokemon is going to be able to go in here and go, oh, hey, these guys are all 10s because they're level 1, and that's just what they are. And maybe most basics are going to be anything over, but they start to change as you go higher up. The idea is to start coming up with what is the range, right? So we could figure out, we can even calculate when does the number change, and then that number would be, that's how often we will that's how often that card levels up, or HP increase. So what we'll have here is an insert, put another thing in here. And this is a number that's going to be mattered. It's going to be on our on our cards, and we haven't put it on there yet, but this will be the HP interval. HP, we'll call it the HP, sure, HP interval, why not? I don't, it's kind of a big, I'm thinking it's easier to see what we're putting on our cards if we don't make the words too much. This one's going to be black because it's actually going to be on our card. So anything that's on our card has to be a color other than red, which is telling us that, you know, it's not on there. Now they could have formulas. So what a lot of times what I do is when I have a field that's actually defined by its what do you call it? Formulas. If they have formulas, these are things that we don't edit ourselves. You gray the column, and it makes it so that, you know, these values we can tweak. The gray ones you cannot tweak, or you put them in blue, or whatever. You just make it some way to show that these are locked. You don't mess with those until you get the formula. Once you get the formulas in place, you kind of just leave them alone, as long as everything's working correctly. So we've got the HP interval. So say, for example, difficulty modifier never changes, only their level does. And let's say we have a level 1 difficulty guy. His sample HP at 100 is 50. Whew, he's got a tiny guy. It's possible. A crappy stage 1 Pokemon maybe never gets very big. I don't know. But let's say he's level 1. So he's only a 10. Now we got to be careful because it's going to take a minute for him to get up. So it's like level 5. Does he even break it? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is like the weakest of all Pokemon. Alright, oh, wait. So he went from 11 to, he went from 10 to 40. What did I do, 10? Oh no, that's still, let's say 15. 20. I'm just jumping up to see if he ever levels 25. Oh, look at that. Level 1 Pokemon doesn't level till 25. That's partly because his number was so low. And this is where we would want to put in scaling. Scaling will make sure that they level more frequently. Right now we're not scaling, so we're basically just chopping off everything that's below a certain level and saying they're 10s, and you stay 10 until your numbers catch up. And then you'll start leveling at a certain interval. So if I say 23, we're still at HP, 21, so it's 21. All right, so 22. All right, so 22. So then it should level faster at this point. So I don't know, let's say if it's 22, let's see if that's faster. 30, 41, oops, 41, 42, I'm thinking 44 if it's every 22 levels, 43, 44, yep, 44. So his HP interval would be 22. So what this means is we have to have a logic in our HP interval to be able to figure out, this is where the math would get a little interesting, because it's going to have to go through and say, okay, when does the number increase? Our HP interval right now is 22 for that guy. That's huge. So it's every 22 levels he'll get more HP. And he's got a stamina boost. He's a difficulty modifier 1, level 1, and managed to get to 15 stamina, which means he's actually way high. And if we dropped our stamina down to 1, he probably wouldn't even get to at 22. He wouldn't even get an extra level at 20, or extra HP at 22. So that's really low, and this is why we have to do scaling. we have to figure out what our minimum is and say, okay, minimum is 10. And as everything increases, we want to be able to say, we should be able to take our entire number and say, okay, our numbers range from 1 or 10 to 35. And if we go 10 to 35, we're going to have to be able to have everything else in some way fall in the middle. And they get to, so it'll scale. So our lowest numbers might be 10, but they more frequently might jump to 20 or 30 as those numbers go into the middle. It's still going to be a faster evolution. Eventually, it'll still be faster for everyone else, but we still got to scale it so that we don't have 50 guys that are sitting there under 10 for 20 some levels, right? If it takes 22 levels to get your to go from a level 1 difficulty modifier 1, he will be by far the worst Pokemon you have, because if the game ends at level 25, because you're only getting that far in a single region, single session game, I'm guessing you're probably, if your stamina actually ends up being some more realistic number like 12 because you didn't actually get all of them, or that would be a lot of rolls. That would be like every time you roll an IV point, you're getting stamina, because at level 22, I mean, that's 15 out of 22. I mean, it's likely that you're probably just under a third. So you're probably not going to be more than an 8 realistically. That would probably be a lot of good rolls on your part. If you figure you're doing maybe, that's like, and that would mean your defense and offensive skills didn't get increased at all. So I mean, you might even be something more like a 6 with the 22. Well, let's see, a 15 only gives you 7, right? So it only gives you 7 cards. But it's like your total stamina points at this point might be, I don't know, you figure it's a quarter, right? So if you're going to go up to 100 and you're thinking to get all these guys up to max, if you're rolling well and not missing too often, you're probably going to have maybe a quarter of the possible points, which is 45, which is maybe a total of around 10 points at 22. I mean, that's assuming a couple of misses, so we can say 11. So 632 is probably not unreasonable to expect at level 25, 22. So he's still got, let's see, he's still got 20 HP at this level, but it's going to take his plus stamina divided by 2. So that's his HP with his stamina, and then as you increase, you can go up from there. So your stamina boost is already calculated into the HP based on your current stamina, but your HP changes with stamina as well. So some guys with high stamina, it's almost like there's a different way to get higher HP, but you can also be stronger, hitting for harder damage. So we're going to use a similar formula for all of our damage qualifiers as well. So when you have a damage boost, it's going to adjust your damage. And if your difficulty modifier is pretty high, that means you can have a higher damage. So you're going to have different things. And skill 2s, which are higher, will have higher damage as well. And these are just where they start. So if you start off at level 30, maybe that first item is going to be more damaging. Everything has a chance to improve on a Pokemon. So even a damage of a 10, colorless 10, can still end up being a 20. And it'll just tell you when those increase, and those increase based on your offensive modifiers. So if you've got a 5, or a, you got 10 on your offense divided by 2, that's a 5. You could actually increase your damage potentially as much as 5 or 10 or whatever. But maybe you have to choose which one's going to increase. So, and you have to do it when you do it. So your offense never, you don't look back and go, oh, I have a 10, I'm going to adjust my skills because now I'm qualifying for the other. Once you have a skill, you put it into something. And you'll probably have to mark that down on your Pokédex. What is your current skill damages? Skill 1, skill 2, skill 3. And yeah, there's going to be a little bit of tracking, so we'll see how fiddly this gets. It's going to be cool because your Pokemon are going to keep changing, but you're also going to have to track a few things. And hopefully, as you reference your Pokédex, or maybe you'll have values on your Pokemon that you can track while you're there. Maybe we'll have some tokens to show, or some way to mark what your Pokemon can do. Maybe we'll have maybe some little slider cards, what your skill level is on, our Pokemon have, you put your base stats in, and maybe we'll have 6 Pokemon out, and you just adjust their stats right there in front of you. And then you don't have to have the Pokédex. You'll just have the 6 guys you're tracking, and this is what they do. And then it's always going to be the same cost. Things won't get more expensive as far as what they cost, but they could get stronger because your Pokemon is getting stronger. And that's just what you'll do. So if you have, like, for example, a Larvitar who can do, he has Sand Spray 10 and Pierce 20. So if all likelihood, as your lower level version of Larvitar, this skill won't be available until you get to a higher level, just because it's a secondary one. But you might start with a nice little Sand Spray for 10, but it takes one fighting to do it. So yeah. So anyway, you'll have your different options for what causes. Maybe we have titles on our words, sand, water, bubble, fury, whatever, and each one of those represents a type. Whereas something like, we could have some generic words, pierce, dive, or maybe we don't even have some. If they're not an assigned word, it's colorless. So our attacks would never have, like, for example, if it's a claw attack, it's 2 colorless, and if it's a slash attack, it's 2 colorless. If you put both of them in there, it's 4 colorless. That kind of thing. So, but each one of those in their own, like a slash might do 60 and a claw might do 60. You do claw slash, it's 120. So that would be one way to identify our cards, to be a little bit more dynamic in their sign, and you just have to create words that do whatever, and then you can put them into your skills, and the game will dynamically create itself. And you can create more words and assign what they are, and then you create more attacks. And it's easy to add them to new Pokemon as you go. So there's a lot of ways to implement formulas into your stuff, and making it so that you, even though it takes time, you might spend a few days coming up with these formulas, in quite a few hours if you're not doing it like I am. 1 hour at a time. But you're going to have a lot of scenarios where you could come up with and try to drive how your Pokemon cards are going to be set up. You start off hard coding everything in, and then you go, oh, that one's broken, I gotta go tweak that one, tweak that one. But find out later that you're tweaking cards individually. It just makes it so hard, because you're going to have 100 cards in here, or 150 cards, and in there you might have 85 Pokemon, and you're going to be trying to tweak them all, changing them, editing them. Oh no, too much duplication, not enough too many things happening. This one's not getting stronger, that one gets too strong. Or if you have things on there that drive it, a formula that says you can't get a skill above a certain level. Maybe if the difficulty modifier of a Pokemon is a 1, he'll never be able to do more than 40 damage off of his first skill. But you can set those different values and ranges to adjust that and make that more dynamic when you're creating more Pokemon later, or characters in the game. It doesn't matter what you're implementing into the game, but you want to be able to make it be protecting you from breaking your own game with the different logics. So, since I messed up and I did my. I've been streaming for now an hour and 45 minutes. I know it doesn't feel like it, because it says only 45 on my clock. It's because that first hour I was talking to myself, so that's not good. Or 40 minutes. I don't know. Maybe it's been an hour and a half. But I did this at lunchtime, and I'm hungry, so I'll try to get back on and do it again this afternoon. I will set up a schedule probably within an hour of the time I start, if anybody's interested in joining me then.